Hey, everybody. Thank you for tuning into the Stuff I Heard podcast. I'm your host, Josh Peak, and this is episode 275. Jeez. Wow. 275. That's amazing. I've got Josh Treadaway again once more with me because The Mandalorian is in high demand. And he watched the episode on Saturday. I happened to watch it on Friday, and he called me Saturday geeking out. And we had a conversation about it, and I thought, wow, dude, this is the podcast. He's like, I'm heading into work. I can't talk right now. I was like, oh, okay. But a lot of stuff happened this podcast. We're going to go ahead and say up front, this is the Stuff I Heard podcast, and this is about The Mandalorian, the series that's on Disney Plus. And if you don't like spoilers, don't listen to it. Watch the latest episode and then come back to us. Just for instance, this is season 2. What is it? The 6th episode of season 2?
I think it's the 6th. Yeah, I believe so.
And if they follow the same parameter they did season 1, there's going to be 8 episodes. So that means we got 2 episodes left, which is kind of what I expected by the end of this. So in this episode, we have the big reveal of Boba Fett. The big reveal of Boba Fett. The big reveal. We get to see Slave One enter the atmosphere of this planet. I mean, holy crap! I was like,
when you realize it's Slave One,
I was geeking out. I was like, it's gonna happen. This is about to go down, baby. Oh my goodness! So, like, my wife this whole time has been like, "It was a big deal about Boba Fett." I mean, I was like, "What? What did you say to me?" Like, it's like me asking her, "What's the big deal about Mickey Mouse?" You know, on that kind of level.
That's on the level right there, man.
So this episode, we got to see Boba Fett land and immediately take out stormtroopers with earth-shattering force of a stick. Like, he has a stick and he just brutalizes some stormtroopers with the stick, man. We talked about this. I've never seen the shattering of the helmets and the gear, and he totally like shattered faceplates and chest armor and pierced their armor, and I was like, holy crap, like this was good. This was really good. I mean, and he took out a whole bunch of Star Troopers by himself before he ever put on his armor. I was like,
God, the armor. I mean, before the armor, I mean, it was just amazing. Like what he was doing with that staff. Granted, it was a created staff. I mean, there was obviously some kind of, like cog at the end of it that basically just like a big giant baseball bat, basically.
Yeah. Well, with like almost like a needle point with a harness thing around it.
He did stab through.
Yeah. Yeah. But, and I read a line that they believe that he got the staff through the sand people. Like they showed like, imagery of what the sand people used and imagery of what he was using. It's just slightly morphed out of what they used. So maybe, I mean, we do know that in Return of the Jedi, he got swallowed up and we thought, oh no, that's how he ends. Like, come on, this is stupid. And then we heard through different books and writings and stuff like that he actually lived, like he made it out of the Sarlacc pit, and that, while we're watching The Mandalorian, we talked about, the first episode, Timothy Oliphant's wearing his outfit, right. And you're like, oh baby, it's about to happen. And then at the end of the episode, you get a glimpse of Boba Fett, and it was that big controversy of, is it Boba Fett or is it
we thought it might be Rex.
Yes.
Captain Rex.
Yeah, because they're all based off of his dad. So Jango Fett was the blueprint for all of the stormtroopers in the beginning. He was the original that they took all the DNA from to make this clone army, supposedly for the Empire, or back then it was for the Republic. They called it. Yeah. So we learned through the different movies and through the animated show that all of this was designed by Senator Palpatine, who is, quote unquote, the bad guy. He was the Emperor all along. But he coordinated all this to happen just to create such confusion that the Jedi would never catch on to the fact that what they call the Separatists, which is the robot army, and the Republic, which was the stormtroopers, fighting each other, were actually all controlled by the Emperor. At some point, we see the Order 66, where the stormtroopers turn on the Jedi and try to and kill most of the Jedi because there's so many of them. Because the Jedi never see it coming. They don't have any reason.
They fought side by side with them through the whole Clone Wars. I mean, like, it was, it would be like if you were just, on a battlefield, and then all of a sudden your buddy beside you just turns and starts,
Yeah.
laying waste to people.
And I mean, thank goodness for Dave Filoni for coming up with the storyline of the Clone Wars and the Ahsoka Tano character who survived Order 66. And you see that battle that she has with her own stormtroopers, where she basically figures out along the way what's going on and removes the implants of several of the stormtroopers, Rex included. Captain Rex is like her buddy. And when he turns on her, she's like, this isn't you. And like, she knows this implant thing was going on, and she has it zapped, and he shakes out of it, and they help get a few others out of it. And the cool thing about the animated show, and this is really smart by Dave to come up with all this stuff, but we get to see some of that in like Rebels, where you have the leftover stormtroopers who are just out there living their life as they look like clones. I mean, but they all have different personalities, and they all have different battle scars, but they're older, and they're just trying to survive. And at a certain point they go, yeah, we just want to help people live. And they kind of become like a mercenary group that helps other people survive in whatever situation they in. And they end up helping Ezra Pritchard and his group. And at some point, give the ultimate sacrifice. Most of them do. I think one or two of them live out of that whole group, but it was really impressive. I was really blown away. I especially liked not only the fact that you get to see, like, my wife made a comment that during Mandalorian, the second season, we really haven't seen the baby, what they call Baby Yoda, which we learned is Grogu. We haven't seen him use his powers. And you place him on the stone, he's looking at a butterfly, and he's like, this isn't working, and he turns around, and then when he turns around again, he's in full Zen mode. He's got his fingers like this, and he's got his eyes closed, and this huge halo of light is beaming from the rock around him with these interesting like hieroglyphics and stuff. And he's obviously communicating to something. We don't know what, but it, like, if there's broadband, he's 6G right there. He's like, oh, I'm sending out a shout to all the homies. I mean, if there's any Jedi anywhere, he's sending a signal out, obviously, and it's from the source. Like that, we all talk about the fact that this planet, this rock, this, what is it, Tython, is where the Jedi origin came from. And for whatever reason, this is like their holy ground. And he basically taps into whatever that power source is through him, and we hear Ahsoka Tano say that in the last episode, where she was like, you take him to the rock and he decides right. Whether he walks away from it or if he chooses the Force. And if he chooses the Force, then the Jedi will find him. And so he's obviously chosen the Force. I mean, because otherwise nothing would have happened, right?
Right. I think so as well. I mean, I do.
I mean, we there is that mystery of the fact that we don't know what he's saying. So that does leave up a lot of interpretation for fans like us to geek out about and talk about and have conversations about and be like, oh, I bet this happened. And then when something happens, we talk about it even more. So, I mean, it's a genius idea to have him not be able to communicate to us, even though we all want him to tell us what happened along the way,
Well, we know that he got some kind of enlightenment, because when he was in the holding cell, he's just playing with those troopers.
Well, but I don't know if you notice, he was also using Force Choke, which is a dark side power.
Right. And I was gonna mention that as well. That like it went. He's kind of in a gray area right now.
Right. I mean, but he also used Force Choke when it came to that big rhino monster in the very first episode of the first season.
He didn't really use choke though. It was just a forced hold. I mean, he was just lifting it up. It wasn't actually choking. He just held it up.
But he choked it to kill it. Like, he was the reason it died.
No, the big huge like horn monster. No, he ran out of energy. He fell asleep, and then as it dropped, Mando stabbed him in the back of the neck, which is where
that's right.
Where the heart is, like a kind of like a deer kind of thing, and he caught him and killed him.
I thought he was choking him.
No, he just lifted him up so he couldn't knock Mando down, and he was gonna hold him up, but he held him up as long as he possibly could, and then he lost all of his, I guess his force energy drained, and he just fell asleep.
Yeah,
and then that's when the thing dropped to the ground, and Mando just went and stabbed it while he was paying attention to it.
Well, I mean, you definitely get to see him throw around a few stormtroopers at each other, which I always find hilarious.
That's always fun.
I mean, that reminds me of the Hulk when he beat up, some of the bad guys with bad guys. Like, he picks them up and just throws them around. It's sort of like doing that with the Force. I mean, and if you have a character such as, like, if Yoda were in this, that's the kind of stuff he would have done, because he has that kind of power. And obviously this kid is very powerful. Otherwise he wouldn't be able to do the stuff he's doing at such a tiny little presence, but he hasn't been using the Force. So he does get tired easily, which we see happen toward the end of the episode. And he comes face to face with Moff Gideon and the Darksaber, which I thought was really cool. He obviously chose the Force, but he's also, like you said, in kind of a gray area, because I think when he's in there, he's angry. And his anger is that side that Ahsoka talked about. She's like, I'm nervous what this will, I don't want to harness this, and I don't want to grow this because I've seen what it can do. And she's obviously talking about how Anakin became Darth Vader. And kudos to whoever made that YouTube video that I shared on Facebook. That was really cool to show for people who haven't watched what we've seen or all of the stuff that I've seen. I mean, I've seen a crap ton lately. To kind of understand who Ahsoka is and what she means to Vader and what she means to the fight against the Emperor and against the dark side. I had a conversation with somebody this week who mentioned that maybe he feels that the child is being used, his powers are going to be used to try and reanimate the Emperor, Senator Palpatine. Maybe that's how the Emperor comes back to life. And that's interesting. That's an interesting theory. I don't know. I mean, it's really cool. I really like the mechanical shock trooper type stormtroopers that were flying around with the mechanical ones that were flying around with their boots. Just, I was like, oh, that's terrifying. That's like Iron Man. If Star Wars and Iron Man had blended.
Well, they're basically like interceptors.
Yeah. From
the Rebels.
Well, the interceptors, I mean, a lot of people don't know anything about the interceptors, but they were basically like in my example, like the elite, but also the kind of Padawans to the Sith Lords. I mean, yeah. But they're, really bad news. I mean, if the interceptors are coming after you, it's not a good day. I mean, to me, it's the equivalent of a young Padawan Jedi learner. I mean, it's just the dark side versus the light side. Again, thankfully, Ahsoka's neither, because you need that middle ground to fight them. I mean, you need that kind of decision making of no, this ends now. Like, whereas the Jedi would have been like, oh, we'll just capture them. No.
No, sometimes you got to just make that hard decision.
Sometimes that lightsaber just takes them out, baby.
See, I kind of see them as more of like a Johnny Ringo, kind of like that badass in the group that, they're still kind of, they're a little bit of like a disciple, but for the most part, they're gunslingers.
Yeah.
That's a little bit what I saw with the interceptors. I mean, like, yes, they do follow a leader, but the leader has the brains of the group. But that was just kind of like my assessment.
That's a good analogy, because like in the animated show, they're not exactly on the same level as Ventress.
Right.
Ventress is more, she reports to Dooku all the time, and she's always trying to figure out what he wants and help and follow through with whatever demands he has. Whereas the interceptors are, hey, go do this. And that's kind of the only conversation they have. And once they show up, it's bad news, because like when I first saw him and they did that spinny blade thing, and I was like, oh my God, what is that?
Yeah. It's like, why does the dark side get all the fun toys?
Yeah.
It's like what was it? The Batman? Remember the Batman movie?
Yeah.
Where did you get all those wonderful toys? I mean, they just kept getting all those wonderful toys.
Yeah.
It's like, why hasn't someone on the light side figure out to make these kind of things too?
Well, you see the double blade pull out, and you're like, yeah, I've seen double blades before. And all of a sudden he goes, and they start spinning. I'm like, oh my God. Run now, run really fast.
But then you did get Ezra with his lightsaber,
with the gun. Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah.
That was really cool. I mean, holy cow.
That was very innovative. And it plays into the show very well as well.
It does. It totally does. And, I keep hearing more and more about a live action version of that coming.
That'll be really hard to do.
It would be. It can be done, though. I mean, with the success of what we have available, everything builds on each other. And we talked about the fact that Disney Plus has that show Gallery, where they basically show how they filmed it. And they use some technology that they learned from when Jon Favreau did Jungle Book, where he basically had a video game engine create the environment around them so that they could do anything inside of this circular theater room that basically had a video game engine that supplied these thousands of TV screen, images with whatever their environment is. It lowers the cost of everything and it makes it more doable, and it makes all the other special effects doable. So everything they build on even more, which makes all of this even possible. I mean, the crazy part though is especially with the animated show, to me, the hardest part is the little robot guy that they got with them.
Chopper.
Chopper. Yeah. That's going to be the hardest part, because that character alone has so many moving parts and so many variables. It's way harder than R2, way harder than BB-8. There's a lot going into it. I mean, a lot of things happen.
It's more that he's more than a droid. I mean, he's almost like a Johnny Five alive kind of thing. Like he has his own personality, his own character. I mean, it's really, really an impressive character to the show.
And that would be the hardest part of recreating it, I think. And to me, he was as much a character as Ezra Bridger was, which is a leap saying, but it is. I mean,
I can see. I mean, he's very integral. I mean, I don't think there's one person in that group you could take out.
No,
it'd be the same show.
No, Satine, I'm looking forward to seeing the most, though.
Are you?
Yeah.
Just because you want to see how hot she can make it in real, they can make her in real life.
Well, I mean, that's going to be an obvious answer, but I mean, the cosplay alone is going to be worth it.
Yeah.
But the stylized helmet coloring and the, her abilities as a Mandalorian as well, even though she's somewhat shunned by her people. And then the battle between her and Katie Sackhoff is going to be legendary. I mean, and then they finally make up and there might be a pillow fight.
I'll tell you what, when I first started Rebels, it really reminded me of kind of like the Firefly show.
I never watched Firefly.
Ooh.
I like the fact that they were basically, they keep saying they're in a hunk of junk, and yet it's a really cool hunk of junk. Like the lady who flies it makes it do things it's not supposed to do, which is kind of what the Millennium Falcon was. It was supposed to be this hunk of junk, and you fly around and this is bad. Everybody kept telling them this is a bad machine right here, and you don't understand. Like, a lot of people didn't watch Solo. They don't know anything about the Millennium Falcon. They don't know the fact that this android brain thing is inside of the machine with all these star maps and stuff that kind of free think on their own and do their own thing in a way. There's elements of that when you see them talking, like whenever R2-D2 plugs into it for the first time that we see in 1977, and R2, and C-3PO makes a comment, this thing speaks a language that I'm unfamiliar with. Like, like they relearn how to speak to it, even though they're supposed to know how to speak to everything that's out there. This thing has kind of created its own language because it was such an advanced AI. I mean, so I don't know. I feel bad for people who don't get into this because it's wildly entertaining.
It's fantastic. I know. I still have my poster. Everything I learned about life, I learned from Star Wars.
Yeah, it's so much fun. I took notes because I'm a geek. Like, you see this?
That's good notes too. That's not just like a couple of little pieces of writing down there.
No.
Well, where we were when we were in the conversation that we decided this wanted to be a podcast, we were discussing the whole beauty of the fact that we thought that Ahsoka was going to get her own show,
and she's been greenlit.
In the process, you sent me a link, and she signed on for 3 seasons.
3 seasons of her own show. How cool is that?
That is just freaking rocking, man.
I mean,
and on top of that, like I said, what that's going to do for these young girls and young Black girls, I mean, that's what Disney's trying to do with this whole thing, because they've had us since '77. I mean, they've had the guys, and they've got some of the girls, like some of the fathers have, introduced their daughters into it, but they're going away from the Disney princesses, so to speak, and they're creating a warrior. They're trying to create more of a warrior style. That's why they do the live action Mulan. They brought Rey in as the new protagonist in the new Star Wars stuff. They're trying to bring in the whole female but badass female kind of attitude. Well,
and plus, I was having this conversation with my mom yesterday about the fact that you sort of have to normalize things in media in order for them to normalize in person. So like when we were children, like a lot of black people didn't have a voice on television unless they were the bad guy in the scene or the neighbor, the quirky neighbor. Latinos didn't have a spot on television. Asian people didn't have a spot on television. And it had to be normalized so that you can eventually get to a place where a black actor could be a lead character. So you could have Will Smith playing in I Am Legend, is basically Castaway with zombies, and he's the only guy there forever, and you're watching him and you can't take your eyes off of him because he puts you in that scenario. But there was a process that happened. It was a whole thing that happened. And her taking over the role, Rosario Dawson taking on the role as Ahsoka Tano and them establishing an entire series around her is a huge step, because then it normalizes that idea. Like you said, you don't have to be a princess. You don't have to depend on a guy. You don't have to be the queen on the crown. You can be a warrior badass, basically, and have your own story told and people be interested, not just girls, everyone. And this is a character that everyone can get behind. And they talked about that a little bit in that animated thing that I shared. Dave Filoni made that decision with his group, of, yeah, we could do, depict her as this, but then it's more of and this girl does this. Whereas if you depict her as a Jedi, as a true kick-ass Jedi, then you forget the fact that you're watching a girl play a role. You're just like, wow, here she is, kicking butt now, and it's like the scene of the fact that she holds the blades in the reverse order and then she lights them up across her face, and I'm like, oh, they're about to get it now. Yes, get it, girl. I mean, that's one of the reasons I like the show Vikings, is because of the Catherine Winterick's character, playing Lagertha. I mean, she is a warrior princess, and when she enters a scene and somebody does her wrong, she's like, you're going to pay for that. And I'm like, oh, you certainly are.
See, I have not watched that one. I've heard good things. Christy started watching it, but I haven't watched that one.
If you watch season 1, you're going to be like, oh my God, what have I been missing? I'm just telling you. It's bad. So we're normalizing the character, okay? This is the reason I got on this conversation with my mom, was because there's some Christmas movies that are out now on Netflix and Christmas shows and that kind of stuff. And there's one that Disney did a couple years ago called Christmas Chronicles, and it had Kurt Russell on there as like a Santa Claus, and like, oh no, Christmas spirit's low, and they got to raise Christmas spirit, and he gets to fly the reindeer and whatever. And there's a scene in there where he gets to show that he's Santa Claus, so he magically makes people sing and dance, and they put on like a little rock concert, and everybody suddenly gets in the Christmas cheer. That's the whole premise, basically. So they thought it was good enough to make Christmas Chronicles 2. Okay.
Oh, really?
Well, what can we do with number 2? So in number 2, they have the same kids involved, but they're older now. So there's a different storyline. And Goldie Hawn's in it. My mom, made a comment. She's like, Goldie looks like crap. And I'm like, I mean, they both had some work done. Her work just didn't turn out as good as his, but I didn't think she looked like crap. The thing about the show that I want to talk about, though, was the main character is a boy and a girl, and their dad had died. So the mom is remarrying a black guy, and he has a son, a young black boy that's now going to be part of their blended family. And they never address that. They never talk about it. They never.
So it's just normalized.
It's normalized. Exactly.
It's completely normalized. Like you don't even consider the fact that it's a mixed race couple.
Right. But you have to think about the steps this had to go through for that to be okay for people to watch in 2020. Back in the Jeffersons, you had a white guy who was married to a black woman. And that was sort of the, okay, we'll have George Jefferson be the main character, but we'll also have this white guy in the show, so it won't be too bad. It was like, what? But that's the mentality that it was back then. But it started with shows like that and Sanford and Son and stuff like that, just to normalize the fact that a black character could have a lead role. Again, what message are you giving young children? Okay, so along the way, it does get more and more normalized. You do get a Idris Elba, who is a complete bad to the bone actor. He gets deemed America's hottest man, which, let's face it, the year he won it, yeah, that's a good looking man. Denzel Washington's been crushing it for years, but again, it took him a long time for him to be a lead role character. I mean, Hollywood just didn't have faith that he could be the draw, but he did become the draw. I
mean, look at how many bit parts Sam Jackson had to do before he got a major starring role kind of thing. And then once he got it, he took it to a whole nother level.
Right. But, okay, so that's one Christmas movie. Okay. Which the movie's not great. I'll just go ahead and comment on it. It's not great. But I do like the character development and the fact that element of the show is never commented on. It's normalized. It should be. So in the next show I watched, it was Jingle Jangle, which is, the name alone comes from a thing I watched on Riverdale. It was some drug they used in Riverdale. They had to come up with a name for a drug, and this Jingle Jangle was supposed to. That's the first thing I think of when I hear the name, and I'm like, that's stupid. Why did you use that name? But the movie starts, and it's basically a musical, and most of the actors are black, and Forrest Whitaker is like the main character. Like he's the main.
That's always a good point. It's a good start.
He's an inventor. He's a toy maker, and he's kind of a curmudgeon-y guy. There's a young girl in it who is the main character. She's his granddaughter in the show, and she's the lead character, and she's very smart, and she's very good at math and very good at imagination. And the movie as a whole is not a great movie, but I had to take a step back and go, okay, if I were a young black girl, a young black boy, and I'm watching this and I'm thinking, hey, I could also have imagination. I could also have dreams. I could also be good at math. I could also invent things. Like, okay, normalize it. Like, this is the kind of, you could tell, like, whoever produced this sunk a ton of money into it. Christopher Columbus? No, Christopher Columbus did the Santa Claus movie. I forget who did this one, but Jordan Peele, what's his name?
Jordan Peele. Okay, yeah.
I wrote it down.
Yeah, Jordan Peele. It's Key and Peele, so it's Jordan Peele.
It's Key. Michael Key is in it. The young girl's name is Madeline Mills, and Ricky Martin is in it.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't know he was in it, but once I saw the credit, I was like, oh, I know what character he was. He's like an animated little toy.
Okay, so he's a little animated, so it's not actually him, but it's his voice.
Yeah, he's kind of a jerk too, which is really funny. It's a funny role, but yeah, I mean, again, it's that element of television that you don't necessarily think about, and you shouldn't think about. It should be the thing that you just go, oh, this is a good show. That's it. That should be the only thought. We're just older that we think about that kind of thing now, or that I think about that thing now, and I think, good, finally.
Well, yeah, no, it's definitely a good thing, but like you said, it's great that a younger generation is probably not even aware of this.
Yeah,
or that's what we're hoping for.
I mean, if I were to tell people about the show, I would say, yeah, Jingle Jangle's kind of a fun little Christmas movie, and it's got this real inventive girl that's got a great imagination, and it takes her to kind of get her grandfather out of this funk, and it's a neat little story, and it's kind of a musical. I don't know that I would have ever described it as being a predominantly black cast. I don't think that would have been any of the top 20 things I would have talked about the show. That's how good of a show it is. But again, it's not a great Christmas movie, but it's decent. I mean, but it's not a talking point. That's the biggest thing. It's so normalized in the way they did it that it doesn't have to be.
Well, at least for you. I mean, like, yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like, I would, and I'm hoping that because of that, if our generation, which you said, even though it took you a moment to think about it, so it did eventually come to you, because that's just, how we kind of.
Well, because I'm breaking it down in my brain. I'm thinking about. What am I going to talk about? And so I'm overthinking it at times. Like when I'm watching Mandalorian, I'm overthinking, how did they get this shot? Is that done with this thing, or where did they get the camera there?
You're watching the gallery thing so much.
Yeah.
Because, like, I mean, to be honest with you, I mean, like, I do a little bit of that, but I pretty much just get wrapped up in the story. Like, I haven't watched the gallery thing yet because of that. Because I kind of feel like when you talk about it, you talk about that kind of stuff, and I feel like maybe part of that's because of you watch the gallery and you get to watch all the different things, because you like to do that. Like, when you used to show me the YouTubes of the guy who's creating the content.
Yeah.
How he goes and sets up all the cameras here and there, and that's how your brain thinks, because you think about that kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, and again, a good story will take you out of that. I can tell you that watching the Ahsoka episode, I didn't think about that.
Till the end, right?
No, I didn't think about it until you just mentioned it. Now I'm thinking, how did they shoot the scene where, I'm thinking about it. But that whole episode, I was just like, I was so geeked out. I was loving it. Okay, so
the last 2 episodes, I've pretty much geeked out. So
to come full circle, how badass was it to suddenly see Boba Fett put on his armor and then knee rocket his way to the victory?
I was waiting for you to bring you on the phone the other day. You were so excited about the knee rocket. I knew that had to be in this conversation somewhere.
He's like, I've kicked your ass enough. Now let me just use my knee rockets. What?
Well, you notice it after the knee rocket. They're like, we got to turn around. We got to go away. This guy's got knee rockets. We can't fight.
Rockets coming out of places we can't even find. I mean, Mando has that one thing on his arm where it shoots out 100 little flares that
singing birds, I think it's called.
Yeah, I mean,
whistling birds.
Yeah, but he's got them coming out of his knees. I mean, Jesus. And then they think, oh, we'll just fly away. Oh no, you won't. He
pulls,
gets his helmet down with his eyepiece, and he gets that rocket and blows one up into the other. I mean, and he's like, good shot. Yeah. He's like, I was actually aiming for the other one, but
yeah, it worked out. Because like when he hit it, I was like, oh, he's gonna hit the top one. It's gonna blow up and go down on the second one. They'll kick them both. And then they make a joke of, I was aiming for the other one.
Yeah, hilarious.
I'll tell you, my favorite part though is the fact that they show his loyalty.
Yeah,
his character and his loyalty to the fact that, like, you know, his ship got blown up and the kid got taken away, and so now, you know, he's like, we're in debt to you because we told you we would help you and the kid get out safe. If you
which is a bit of the code.
What he is. I mean, he's nothing but a person of character and of honor.
Yeah, he follows through. Whatever he says he's going to do, he follows through. When Mace Windu took his father's helmet off, he was like, "All right, Jedi, the bad guy." Like,
pretty much.
Yeah. Of course, I love, even in the animated show, they had Boba Fett as a child in the show, which was interesting altogether as well. I don't know if you saw that part.
I don't think I've seen that yet.
So So spoiler.
Well,
there's him as a child, and he's not happy about things.
Well, he didn't look happy in the movie whenever, you know, he was looking at his dad's helmet with it still stuck in it.
I love the fact that his face is a little chewed up too, because then it kind of gives you that knowledge of, he's been through some crap, like, you know, plus the helmet, his armor already looks like it's been through some crap before he ever got into the Sarlacc pit. I mean, but you know, you can tell he's battle worn, and he earned everything.
He definitely fought his way out of the Sarlacc pit. It wasn't like he crawled out. He fought his way out, obviously.
Yeah. Well, okay, so I know you don't have quote unquote Netflix, but I've been watching this show that's been coming on. It's like an animated show called Big Mouth, and it's really vulgar. It's a cartoon. It's run by comedians, John Mulaney and
you had me. I'm John Mulaney.
Some other comedian. They're like the main characters. Jenny Slate is one of the characters. There's a bunch of them. God, there's just so many. This season 4 just came out, and I binged it one morning. I got up at 7 a.m. and I was like, what am I going to do today? Oh, this will consume some time. And I watched all of the season. They're middle-aged kids who are buddies, and they're going through puberty. And they have hormone monsters that follow them around and talk to them, and they're really vulgar.
That sounds fantastic. Like I said, you had me at John Mulaney, because I think he's absolutely fantastic.
One of them is Maya Rudolph, plays one of the hormone monsters. This year they introduced anxiety. So anxiety is these mosquitoes, and they all have Maria Bamford's voice.
Oh, Lord.
Hilarious. They go to summer camp, and one of the other campers is Seth Rogen, and his opening joke is him showing his nutsack and look, I found a duck egg, you know.
That sounds like something he might have ad-libbed.
It's a lot of vulgarity, a lot of stuff that kind of kids go through as adolescents. there's an episode where the main character girl goes through her first period and she has to put in a tampon, and she's trying to figure it out, and she opens it up and the tampon talks to her and it's, "Hi, I'm Frank. I'm here for the job." I'm like, "Hi." she freaks out. He's talking to me. You know, it's hilarious. Like everything's got a animated voice. There's a lot of social things that they talk about in the show that are not going to jive well with a lot of people, but it's open conversation. It's ultimately comedians who were like, okay, we can make an animated show about puberty. What do you want to do? Go.
So now, real quick, was the name Nick Kroll? Is that one of the ones?
Nick Kroll, yeah.
Yeah, because him and Mulaney do a lot of stuff together.
Yeah. And so I think they have a live show, some kind of.
Yeah, they do like a Broadway show where like they do like skits and stuff. I mean, I catch a lot of their stuff on the Netflix XM radio.
Well, they have a new show that they're going to do with Jenny Slate, which is one of the characters on the show. I just heard about it. I'm not exactly sure what the episode or what the series is going to be about, but I'm sure I'll talk about it on here. But anyway, I know that you have a way to watch things. Big Mouth, check it out.
Actually, Chrissy still pays for Netflix because she likes to have, in case like the thing that I use is not working well or something. She can't find a source, so she keeps her Netflix. So I do have Netflix as well.
Okay. All right. So also on Netflix, I watched a show that really disturbed me called Hillbilly Elegy.
That's
ELEGY. It's got Glenn Close in it.
This is the one you sent the video of. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So Amy Adams is basically this kid's mom, and she's gone through some severe PTSD issues, and it turns to heroin. She had a kid at 13 years old. They're living in, I think it's Kentucky. The grandma is rough around the edges, to put it mildly. She takes an ownership of basically helping raise this boy who's hanging around with some delinquents and getting into trouble. And this kid, this is based on a true story. This kid ultimately becomes a success. He becomes a lawyer. He's on podcasts. I mentioned it to Greg. Greg's like, "Oh yeah, just listen to a podcast with him and Jordan Peterson." And I'm like, "What?" Of course, I'm sure he's out there promoting his movie. But he wrote this best-selling book about his life, and the grandmother in it is Glenn Close. And I remember Glenn Close is playing, the Fatal Attraction show or whatever it was, where she boiled the bunny. But she was a sex symbol at one time, and now she looks like my grandmother looked, my Nana, with the permed out hair and the thick glasses and the giant sweatshirt with a kitty cat on it. And I'm just like, okay. And they have flashback episodes of them fighting as a younger couple, her and her husband, and basically him hitting her and getting drunk and her telling him, "I'm going to set you on fire." And she does set him on fire at a certain point. And I'm like, I'm watching it and I'm going, I know people who've been through this, like real life people who've been through this. And I've seen some of this, and I've been a part of some of this, and I've heard conversations of loved ones who've been through this. And I have a way of like listening to people's story and imagining it. And this basically just puts into light everything that I'd seen either growing up or through the eyes of people that I love and care about. And so watching the show, I didn't love it. I wasn't happy about it. And I was amazed at how good the acting was. I mean, especially at the end, I didn't know it was based on a true story. At the end, they show photos and video of this guy's mom and grandmother, and Amy Adams is a spot on for his mom, and Glenn Close is spot on for his grandma. And I mean, holy crap, great acting. Not a happy, good, feel good, lucky Christmas story that you want to hear around this time of the year.
No, but I mean, it's a story that some people need to hear that they can get out. I mean, I know probably, I know at least for me, something like that might have given me a little bit more of a push that I could actually get out of, what I grew up in. Yeah, which I did kind of get out of, and I mean, I did move a little bit toward a better life. But I mean, it's something that people who going through it can see that other people are going through it. It's not just something that they have to go through.
I know too many stories that people have shared with me that I can't share anything that's incriminating because it's not my story to tell of their story. But I've listened to enough stories and I've seen enough with my own eyes of the brutality that people can do to each other and do to themselves. And it's I guess for most of the world that doesn't go through that kind of life, it's entertainment. I mean, if you lived your life up north, like in New York, and you've lived a very posh life, and you turn this on, you're like, "Whoa, what a great performance! I can't believe it! What a story! Can you believe people live through that?" And for folks out here, we're like, "Whoa, look, that looks like my aunt and uncle, and or that looks like my grandmother, or that looks like, so and so's husband and wife, and oh crap, and those kids. I still remember those kids. What are those kids up to? Oh crap, yeah, I see what they're up to now. That's terrible. I mean." Good performance though.
Well, the clip that you sent with Nana in the car talking to the kid, it was a good scene. I mean, it really was.
I mean, he steals a calculator. Spoiler alert. She kind of takes him under her wing and he moves in with her and he's in math class and he at some point kind of gives a crap about his future, but doesn't really. And he's being told he has to use this really expensive calculator to do his homework. And so he goes to Radio Shack and he knows he don't have the money, but he tries to steal it and he gets caught. And when he gets caught, she blesses him out and buys the calculator and he gets pissed off and throws it out the window. And she slams on the brakes and turns around and makes him get out and get it. And she gives him a what for in the car, basically. And, and I was thinking, wow, I've given that speech and heard that speech. That's pretty interesting. So, but it was the grandma's, like she made a decision at a certain point of nothing changes until I change it. Like she was the anchor. She was the pivoting point. And for a lot of us, that character is a real character. That character is my grandmother, is your grandmother, is everyone's grandmother at a certain point that suddenly realized, yeah, my kid's going through some crap and it's kind of my fault. And if I don't change it right now, like, nothing's going to change.
You're going to follow that same path.
Yeah. I mean, you can see the writing on the wall and you're like, all right, I got to make a decision here. And you just sort of dive into it whole hog and hope that something good comes out of it. And if nothing else, hopefully this kid's story is a testament to his grandma for being the person that gave a crap about him and set him on the right path. And the kid took notice at a certain point. I don't recommend watching it, but there's a point where she gets Meals on Wheels and the guy shows up at the door and she can't work. They have no money. She's on assistance and she's taking care of her grandson. And when the guy shows up, Meals for Wheels, she basically begs him for extra food. And when she gets her food, it's enough for one with like a few extra grapes and she splits everything and gives him the majority of it. And he's looking at both plates and it suddenly dawns on him. He's like, oh, I got to take some ownership here. Like a light bulb cuts on. He starts cleaning up around the house. He starts taking the trash out. He starts going to work. I mean, you see him as a teenager working at a convenience store. And it's like, yeah, that's kind of what you do at a certain point in your life is you go, all right, I get it.
I got to pitch in.
I got to pitch in. I got to do my part. And we all get to that point as adults, but everybody gets to it at different levels. Some people are coddled a little too long. Some people have it easy. Some people have options. There's a lot of kids out there that don't. And kudos to everybody out there who's going through this kind of crap. And I know how hard it is. And I know that it can be overcome. And if anybody's listening to this that's going through this kind of crap, I mean, trust me, I get it. I've been there and you can get out of it. But it takes a lot of hard work and determination. And this kid, hey, he's a success now. He's made it, for every measure of what you could call success, he's done it. And hopefully this movie will be seen from others as an homage and not necessarily as a PTSD event as it was for me. So,
well, like I said, I would hope that maybe it would give some kids like like us as our earlier childhood, it would give them hope that they can get out of it. Especially in a situation like, I mean, I don't know exactly how many generations you saw of your family kind of struggle before your mom, really. My
mom was the success, but my mom, like I've told my mom, I was like, I want you to write a book about your life. And she was like, no. And I was like, no, people need it. She's like, no, they don't. She goes, I've just made a decision. I'm never going to talk bad about people. And I was like, what? And she was like, there's a lot people don't need to know. And I was like, okay, I totally get it. I understand. But my mom was the rare success story out of all of that she grew up in. I mean, but again, not my story to tell, but.
But no, I mean, between your mom and Greg's mom, I mean, you guys both gave me hope that, that you could get out of it.
Yeah.
That you have to struggle for it and you have to work for it. It's not something the world's going to just hand you on a platter, but it can be done. I mean, cause like I had never seen it in my family.
Yeah.
And then when I got to, see how hard your mom worked to go to school and raise you guys and do everything that she did. And then Greg's mom, how she was just, she was just a genius when it came to money.
Yeah.
I mean, and she didn't have a job that paid her tons and tons of money. She was just very smart with her money. And to watch that and say, hey, look, anybody can do this, really.
Yeah.
If you put your mind to it and you set your goals. And I mean, granted, I didn't fully succeed. I didn't finish college and I probably would have been a little bit better off. But at the same time, I did escape a lot of the crap that my family grew up in.
Yeah. Well, and you broke the habit. You broke the trend. The trend was have kids early and then screw up your life trying to figure it out as you go along. I mean,
and I think part of the reason why I chose not to have kids is because of that.
Yeah. I mean, I've talked about this before. I didn't necessarily plan on having kids as early as I did, but in a way I broke the habit with my kids because I talked about it so much with them that they are now, in their mid to late 20s and no kids. So I don't know what success that's considered to be measured by, but to me that's a success because
that's a
when
success.
When you get behind the 8 ball like that, it's a lot harder to figure out life when you're a kid as well. I mean, and having children is one of the hardest things to overcome, as an individual, but it's also a reason for a lot of the things that are wrong with our country right now.
Kids having kids is a major problem because they don't raise the kids right, and then the kids end up being in a cycle of what they were.
Yeah, and you don't have parents who are fully. I mean, your brain isn't fully developed until you're 25. You don't even know who you are, and you're trying to raise kids and somehow be in a relationship, and it's kind of doomed from the beginning. But if you weren't in such a hurry to grow up, you wouldn't have been in that situation to start with. But there is that push of thinking in your brain, if I could just get to this age, I could be out of here. And I want to listen to you people. I want to put up with this XYZ, whatever the situation is. I mean, and there's a lot of people out there in that situation and, there's no good answers. I mean, it's just a lot of, like you said, be smart, make decisions, follow through with your decisions. Greg made a comment a long time ago. He's like, he told me he was impressed with my ability to adapt to any situation and overcome whatever the obstacles are. And I told him, I said, well, my theory is that I was impressed with how determined he was and he had a plan and he followed through with it. And I said, I would have been much happier, I think, if I'd have done that or if I had that ability. But for whatever reason, I'm not wired the same way you are, and neither is anybody else. Everybody has their own little path they have to follow. And you either learn from it or you adapt to it or you get overwhelmed by it. I mean, that's your choices. So, there's a lot of people that let it just consume them and they fall back and they just go, I don't know what to do. I'm just going to sit here.
Well,
if you choose to sit there, you kind of waste your life,
Well, I got to give a lot of credit and a big shout out to the King, because he played a major role in the fact of me being able to try to break the cycle and get out of. Because I mean, when I got kicked out of school and after we had our apartment and we moved on after that, I was pretty much right there ready to go back to the whole cycle of my family, just being, nothing but a wasted drunk and, living from, day to day with, serving money and things like that. And Rodney basically saw that coming, I guess, or he saw the, beginnings of it or whatever. And he asked me to come stay with him, or offered me to come stay with him. And even though I still drank and partied a little bit, I tried to get a little bit more of a straight and narrow life because I didn't, want to be that person. Yeah. And I fell back on it in Tennessee when I first moved in there with him. I fell back on it real quick. But by the time we got through to New York, and ironically, when he went to New York City to live with his uncle, and I moved in with my friend across the street, that's when it really dawned on me of what, you know, what opportunity he had given me, and I really, really needed to make good on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that helped a lot. And then, of course, you know, now that, you know, we're all back in kind of the same area, and we run into each other every now and then, or get to hang out occasionally. You know, it's reassuring to me that, you know, I did get out, but I still got a lot of room to grow.
Well, if anything about this kind of dialogue and conversation that we've had about this show has taught me, or is kind of leaning me towards, is that everybody has a story to tell. Everybody has a history. Everybody has something that was like a catalyst moment in their life. And for a lot of people, it would be seen as something completely alien and completely weird and different. But you never know who your audience is. You never know what is going to strike a nerve with somebody or what's going to inspire them. I mean, sometimes it's watching a football game and some kid sees it and goes, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to be that guy. Or it could be a movie, or it could be a TV show, or it could be some moment that just they could see a neighbor or a friend or a brother or whatever make a decision, and it affects their lives. And we all have those moments, but it also lets me know that, you know, everyone's story is kind of worth hearing, and your story is worth hearing. My story is worth hearing. We have a platform. We could talk about it whenever we want. So, I mean, you know, it's just kind of an open invitation to be like, I want to normalize the conversation for everybody. I made this comment today to somebody because I had to do this interview thing about my eye, and somehow we got on the conversation of the podcast, and I said, I want to normalize every conversation. I want people to feel comfortable talking about what's going on in their life so they don't feel isolated. A lot of people feel isolated, and a lot of it is the news media trying to pit us against each other for ratings. But it's also in the machismo of what we were taught as kids, being young men, of you don't talk about the things that you're failing in. You don't talk about your weaknesses. You don't talk about, she asked me in the conversation, she was like, what are your strengths and weaknesses? And I was like, well, my strengths got taken out when I got hurt because I can't lift. And she goes, no. Now, what are your strengths now? And I was like, that's a good question. And she's like, well, from talking to you, I can tell you're a good communicator. And I went, bingo. That's a strength. She goes, what's your weakness? And I went, I don't know. I mean, I'm injured. And she goes, no, not the injury. Right now, what's your weakness? If it has nothing to do with the injury. And I was like, boredom. She goes, I get it. She's like, I totally get it. You know, she kept asking me these questions about mental health and stuff like that. And I was like, I'm actually okay mentally health wise. And I think the biggest aspect of that is just having people to talk to on a regular basis, you know, having conversations with people. It helps to get off your chest the things that are bothering you. And I mean, for whatever we've cultivated as a group, we're open to talk about anything and be okay with it and be okay with each other. And it's like, you know, there's no malice involved. There's no, you know, miscontent. It's just, hey, this is what's going on in my life. And like, okay, cool. Want to talk about it? Have a beer? Yeah, sure. You know? So I don't know. My point of all this was, I want to use this opportunity for everybody out there who's listening to form a group around you of any kind that you can find. It may not even be on people that you are necessarily friends with. It might just be people that you have an association with, or that you have a likeness with. Share your conversation and share your story so that you don't feel isolated. That isolation can be a killer. And, you know, this kid, for what he went through in this Hillbilly Elegy movie, I mean, he had his grandma, and at a certain point he found friends, and he found somebody that he fell in love with and got married. And every step of the way, he was nervous to tell people about who he was and where he came from. And we all know people like that. We know some of us are people like that, and you got to be okay with it at a certain point, because it just holds you back from living your full life. So.
No, I agree. I mean, for a quick example for that is, I mean, I've always never really been a big fan of Christmas. When I was a kid, I sat and watched my mom cry trying to figure out which bills to pay so she could, have a little bit of a Christmas for us.
Yeah.
So I hated to watch her struggle like that when I told her not to worry about it, but she's my mom and she wanted to make sure we had some kind of Christmas. So every Christmas since then, I've never really been a Christmas person. It brings back bad memories.
Yeah. My mom, as a student, went through the same thing, and she pawned her class ring one year to buy me a little Star Wars TIE fighter that was about this big. And then my dad showed up and bought me a TIE fighter that was this big and pissed her off. But I saw how upset she was over it, and she was struggling. I mean, she was going to school full time. She was trying to, at the time, she waitressed at Steak and Shake in Georgia. But it was all she could do to buy this one little toy for me for Christmas. And it broke her heart. And I think it did the same thing to me now that you mentioned it, because Christmas kind of lost its appeal to me at that point.
Yeah, I mean, it did. 100%.
It wasn't until I met Dolores, my wife, and saw her amazing Hallmark style Christmas tree. And I was like, who the hell decorates a tree like this? Who did you hire? She was like, hire? I did that myself. And I'm like, no, really? I mean, it took that though. I mean,
I get it. That's kind of what I'm going with. This is I've always had that feeling. Now, Chrissy, my girlfriend, she is all about Christmas. She's all about family and the spirit of Christmas and all this. And so I go to work one day and I come home and the whole house is decorated after I've been gone to work for a few hours. And I mean, it brings so much joy to her. She's even having they told her she can't have a employee Christmas party because, too many people in the same place. So she's actually bringing them here and doing the Christmas party here instead of having like a work Christmas party where they're paying for everything. She's actually taking care of it for her employees because she wants them to have a Christmas party.
Yeah.
In the process of all of that, I've tried to explain to her why I didn't like Christmas and why I'm trying to adjust to it. So give me a little bit of time, but I'm working through it. But it's easier now watching her and the joy it brings her to celebrate, to decorate this house and the tree and all this kind of stuff. And I'm starting to get a little less humbuggy.
Yeah. Well, it's healing, and it takes a while. It's part of it is forgiving your parent for their own crap, because as an adult, as you get older, you go, "Oh, I get it. I go through crap too," and I've probably had that effect on my kids. I mean, for whatever I'm going through, I probably had some weird effect on them. But you learn to forgive them of all of their failures because you realize, oh, we're all failures. We all have problems. We all have things we're dealing with. And sometimes we say the wrong thing and we react the wrong way and we don't plan like we should and we don't call the people like we should and we don't say I love you enough or whatever the situation is. I mean, that forgiveness leads way to love.
Oh, I totally agree. Once I reconnected with my mother, I guess maybe 12 years ago now, she and I had a conversation one night and she tried to apologize for everything that she had done. And she knew that, all this. And I tried to explain to her, I was like, look, it wasn't a big deal. I understand it. But then when she really broke it down and took time, I realized there was a lot more there underlying hurt and pain, and frustration as well, that I didn't realize that when she apologized, it came out of me. And ever since then, I've been able to just pretty much not necessarily forget what happened or how my life was, but I've been able to accept it a lot easier. And it's a lot easier for me to kind of learn and move from it than to let it just sit and fester and destroy parts of my life.
Yeah. And to bring it full circle, again, she grew up in a generation where the key component of being a woman was just to be pretty. And now we have Rosario Dawson playing a Jedi. Yes.
Full circle. There it is.
And now young girls can grow up thinking, I can be anything, even a Jedi. Yeah. And Satine is going to, I mean, we've seen a little bit of Katie Sackhoff being a Mandalorian, but if they do the full action,
a lot more,
dude, Satine's gonna blow some crap up.
Literally.
I mean, her ammunition's holy crap. There's always crap blowing. You got this? Yeah, I got this. Boom, 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 boom. Everything's blowing up. Like, get it, girl. Yeah.
Yeah. She's their basher.
I love it. So.
Yeah, I'm actually. We're probably going to lose our Disney Plus at the end of December because we had it for 1 year free with Verizon. So I'm going back and rewatching Rebels because I don't remember all of it as well as I wish I could. After our last podcast, when you talked about Ezra and the temple, I kind of remember, but I didn't remember it as vivid as you did. So I wanted to go back and rewatch it. So
once you lose it, get in touch with me. I may be able to hook you up.
We can do that. Or like I said, my programs, I still can watch it. I'm still going to be able to watch them.
But mine's on a 3-year deal, and I think I'm allowed up to 6 people on my thing, and I can hook you up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, works. That's a nice even trade for football.
Yeah.
And UFC fights.
Yeah. So
speaking of fights, did we mention the Tyson exhibition fight?
No, not really. I mean, Tyson was fighting Roy Jones Jr. I talked about it before it happened, and I didn't watch it. And I think I mentioned it on a podcast 2 podcasts ago. But I mean, I heard they sparred really well, and at a certain point,
first couple of rounds were okay, and then after that, it became a hug fest.
Yeah, you mentioned the fact that Roy Jones mentioned that he got punched really hard one time. And he thought, "I just want to quit."
Oh, that's right. Yes, we did. Because you mentioned the Will Smith. That can beat Mike Tyson. Yeah. Yes. Okay. Now I remember. Yes, we did talk about it. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, so this past weekend, there's a YouTube guy named Logan Paul who's gotten into boxing over the last few years, and he's apparently really good. And this past weekend, he knocked this dude out. I mean, this guy was like
he beat Nate Washington. He was a former NBA player.
Yeah. Well, this guy apparently was also like a junior boxer, growing up, and was a legit boxer in his own right. And when Logan Paul knocked him out, like there's screenshots of him where he looks like Rocky from the third Rocky when he's all juiced up. I was like, holy crap, Logan. Jesus, you've been hitting the gym hard. But I guess Floyd Mayweather has put out the word of, I'll box you for they've agreed to an exhibition boxing match.
I believe it's in February,
And that's kind of a cool idea because, I mean, we've talked about the fact that Mayweather is such a smart fighter. He's going to avoid getting the big hit. But Logan Paul is no joke as a boxer. I mean, he's legitimately coming around as a boxer. But it's okay. You got a YouTube guy going to fight the greatest boxer of all times. Floyd's not going to lose, but also, if he gets lucky and clobbers him one good, he's got some power to him. This is different than McGregor fighting him because McGregor's stylized is all about MMA and about, using knees and body and grappling and stuff like that. Heavy striking from his legs, flying leg kicks and crap like that. But Logan Paul is
an actual boxer, so he knows the science. An
actual boxer. Yeah, he's training as a boxer. He's got his cardio up. This is not going to be like McGregor fighting him. This is, even though it's going to be, I think it's going to be less televised than the McGregor fight with Mayweather.
100%. Well, these exhibition things, they're doing them through like this last one. I can't remember exactly the name of the channel, but I mean it was like an internet channel.
Yeah.
I mean, it was, and I mean, although I will say one of the more entertaining things was that Snoop Dogg was one of the commentators.
I heard that.
And that probably was the best part of the whole freaking show, to be honest.
Okay, so you know about the Snoop Dogg Burt Kreischer tie-in, right?
They've got
the Big Show.
The Big Show. The Big Show is coming up on TBS. I haven't seen it yet, but I saw the preview for it.
Yeah. So they got to hang out and be buddies during the show, and apparently Burt talks about them hanging out and smoking weed and drinking a little bit, and he's like, now he's like Snoop's buddy. They call each other and FaceTime each other, and then
but didn't he make some kind of comment about the fact that like he thought he smoked weed, but then he hung out with Snoop and he realized he'd never smoked weed before, really? Yeah,
he's like, I took 3 puffs and woke up the next day. and Snoop smokes this stuff all day long. He's like, he said, but Burt makes the comment that he's the drinking portion of that. He goes, people think they drink until they drink with me.
Yeah.
Apparently, I was talking to you about the fact that Bert Kreischer does a podcast with Tom Segura called Two Bears, One Cave. It's on YouTube and it's also on everywhere you find any kind of podcast. Well, they've been doing these challenges with each other for a couple of years. They did the weight loss challenge one year. They did Sober October for like 3 years. And it began as like a thing with Joe Rogan trying to get Bert to save his life because they felt like he was on this downward spiral of drinking too much. So it was a challenge just to see if he could quit drinking. And he did. He quit drinking for the whole month. And then it turned into like a fitness thing involved too, because they had to do like so many hot yoga classes for the month. And they all got in extremely good shape doing it. And they sort of had this thing going on every year until this past year, whenever COVID hit and Joe was moving to Texas. It didn't work out for them to do it this year. Well, with them doing Two Bears, One Cave, they've kind of set up their own little challenges, because pretty much anything that Tom goes, hey, I bet we'd be good at this, Bert immediately goes, oh, I'll beat you, whatever it is. Like he has this grandiose idea of I'll beat you no matter what it is. You just mention it, so they've done some challenges before with each other. They did one and filmed it for YouTube. They're working on the production to release the video of it, but they played tennis. And apparently Bert, like neither one of them played tennis great. Tom said he played tennis when he was young, and so did Bert, but then they quit playing for a long time, for like, 20 something years. They played each other and Bert crushed Tom. So then the competition moved towards basketball, and apparently they had a basketball match that was going on. And I don't think this happened with them playing each other. I think this happened with Tom just trying to prepare to play Bert. He went to dunk the ball. He dunked it, and when he landed, he broke his arm and his leg.
Oh, geez.
And I thought it was a joke at first. They were talking, these things were coming across social media about, yeah, I broke him down when he went to dunk on me. And then it was no, Tom going, no, I legitimately got hurt. And I was like, Dunkin' Donuts? Like, what are you dunking? You're not dunking.
Yeah, he's like, not dunking the ball, but maybe it was a 9-foot rim instead of a 10-foot rim or something.
So I don't know. They haven't put out. They're going to put out the video. They have a video of it apparently, because they were filming him practicing for this thing, and he apparently did dunk the ball. But when he landed, he severed, like, this bone came out of his arm. So he's got a scar that goes almost from his elbow up to his shoulder. It's a wicked looking scar. He put it on Twitter today, and he was like, I'm thinking about getting a tattoo to cover this up. What do you guys think? And it's this long scar with stitches all the way up. And
wow.
someone used Photoshop to write "fuck you, Bert."
Yeah, I noticed on that web page on their Facebook page. That's basically all that page is just each of them going at each other.
Yeah, and their fans,
everybody jumping on the bandwagon.
Their fans messing with each other, and it's kind of a community, and it can be mean spirited at times, and they really talk about the fact of, look, we're friends. Like you guys talk crap about us or whatever, and that's fine. We're comedians, we can take it, but also, like, understand we're best friends. Like it doesn't matter what you say, we can rib each other, but at the end of the day, we're still best friends. So. Anyway, I just think it was kind of cute. I want to see the video of him dunking, because he's kind of a large fella. That's why they call it Two Bears, One Cave, because the bear idea is them being gay dudes, overweight bearded gay dudes.
Well, that's like I was just listening to actually Tom on, like I said, on Netflix Sirius, and the skit came on where he's talking about how he just wants to lose weight, and not because he wants to be healthy, because he wants to talk about fat people again.
Yeah.
He's like, because like he's like, he's like, people come up to him after the show. He's like, you're pretty fat. like you got beat by a lot.
Well, I mean, a lot of people, don't know Bert Kreischer that well, but they know Tom Segura, because Tom was one of the first two comedians to put a special on Netflix. Netflix reached out to Bill Burr first and Tom Segura second. So 2013-14 is when they both put out their special, and immediately got super successful because of Netflix. It just happened at the right time. It boomed. If you haven't seen Tom's latest special, Disgraceful.
Yes, I have.
Or not Disgraceful. What's the latest one?
Oh, it's not Disgraceful, because that's the one. I think that's the last one I saw, because he's got the black leather jacket on.
Well, Disgraceful was the one where he talks about his mom. Tommy, this is disgraceful. It's the one after that. He opens up talking about how your mom was a hoe when she was growing up, and
they're talking about Christmas whenever when he decided to hurt his mom's feeling.
I took notes. I'll have to review my notes. It's on there somewhere. Wait, I got a phone.
You do have a phone, and it has a search engine.
Segura's latest special.
So while you're looking that up, so speaking of Netflix, the reason why we still kind of have Netflix, like I said, Chrissy is loving it. We actually sent her mom and her stepdad our access because she wanted them to watch the John Mulaney
Ball Hog.
Ball Hog. Okay, yes, I have not seen that one. I saw it, but I haven't watched that one.
Watch Ball Hog.
Okay, but we were watching.
Mom, don't. If Mom's listening to this, Mom, don't watch Ball Hog. Everyone else,
don't watch Ball Hog.
Yeah.
Do you not like what we watch?
It's hilarious. Oh, and you're watching Wayne.
Yes, I am watching Wayne still. I watched a couple episodes last night, as a matter of fact. The last one they just left the hospital with her dad in the hospital.
Okay, yeah.
And she's like, "Let's just get out of here."
Good stuff.
Yeah, I was going to try and watch a couple more, and I was like, "Nope, I need to get some sleep." It was like 4:00 in the morning. I was like, "I need to get some sleep."
Yeah,
I had to do my Google classes because it was due last night at about 2:00. So I finished that up around like 12:30, 1 o'clock.
I derailed you from talking about Chrissy's dad. Sorry.
Oh no big deal at all. I was just saying that like she doesn't really watch a lot of that stuff. She likes to watch her like IDTV and ghost stories and things like that. But I got her to watch The Comeback Kid.
Okay.
With John Mulaney, and he did this skit about the horse in the hospital, and she absolutely lost it. And she's like, my parents have to see this, so she gave them her access. That's how I didn't even know we still had Netflix until then. Like she watches it, but I never use it.
Yeah. Yep. There's lots of good stuff out there, folks, and sometimes your mom won't like it. Doesn't mean it's not funny.
I can promise you my mom doesn't like half the stuff that I like to watch, but it's funny.
That's okay. We still love them.
We do.
Yep. Well, hey, I'm going to wrap this up because it's that time.
I got you. Yeah, I got to go let the dogs in, and I probably need to start working on trying to figure out something for dinner. So
yeah.
But yeah, as of right now, my restaurant is closed every Monday, so I have every Monday off.
Okay.
So,
well, we know we have 2 more episodes.
2 more episodes at least. Two more at least.
So right now, Grogu is in Moff Gideon's custody. So we've seen a preview of Bill Burr coming back on the show. I'm excited about that.
Very much so.
So the next episode is going to have Mando and Boba Fett going to get him and break him out of prison so that he can help them and convince him to help him. And then the last episode is going to be the appearance of a Jedi, maybe?
Possibly.
Maybe Yoda's or Grogu's long distance phone call will come through, and we might see an Ezra Pritchard bust through or something.
Wow!
There's a possibility.
What a name drop! That would bring it all full circle.
That would fall right into Dave Filoni's plan.
Yeah, Ezra showing up would be absolutely right in line with what should be happening. And then he would go after they get the kid back and go with Ahsoka.
This could be a storyline in Rebels that we didn't see. I mean, it could be.
Well, this could be where they're trying to bridge the canon universe and the new Disney universe.
Yep.
And this could be the bridge that brings that together.
Yep. I'm so glad that there's a lot of intelligent people working on this.
Yes.
And they've got Disney money to back them up.
Yeah, I will be honest. I was very, very suspect when Disney took over. And I know that there's a lot of people out there that, especially the trolls, that they tried to like poo-poo the new movies.
Yeah.
I like the new movies. I thought they did a very good job.
I did too. I really liked the last movie.
I mean, I think they did credit to the name and to the series itself.
Oh, and because you're such a Star Wars nut as I am, have you seen the Disney Plus Lego Christmas special?
I did watch that already. Yes, I did. Come on, man.
I laughed my butt off watching that. I laughed my butt off, especially like Guido's there and he's like, "You want to shoot first? Yeah, I got it." They both hit young and old. Han Solo are shooting him. I was like, "That's great."
It threw me for a minute. I was wondering how they were going to, bring it all together, but it ended up being really well done and funny.
A lot of funny moments.
That's where I really enjoy the whole Lego series stuff.
Yeah,
is they make fun of themselves, but in a way that we can enjoy it and not, it's not against the Star Wars universe.
Yeah.
It's just, like you said, that one scene where it's like, you're going to shoot first. I mean, if you don't know the scene, you're not going to find that as funny.
Yeah.
So I mean, they're still trying to like I said, they're trying to bridge all of us together and bring in a new group with us.
Even the stuff with the Emperor, I made my wife watch it, and she was like, "I don't get it." And I was like, "Oh God, I need to talk to Josh." I was like, "How do you not get it? This is hilarious."
Well, I've been able to trick Chrissy, not trick her, but convince her to watch. She's watched the first 2 episodes of Mandalorian with me, and she likes it, but we just haven't had a chance to sit down because we have so many other things that we're watching together as well.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get her into it, and she's like, "You don't want to watch it from the beginning?" I'm like, "Yes, I do. If you're going to watch it with me, yes, I do."
Why not? I mean, are we going to watch Big Bang reruns? We could watch that.
Yeah. I mean, hey, there's nothing wrong with Big Bang reruns and at the right time.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm still watching old Buffy reruns.
Nothing wrong with that either. Nothing wrong with that. Oh, sorry.
Oh, yeah. You went Riverdale on you, didn't you?
I was reflecting on Sarah Michelle Gellar.
Elijah Dushu. And we'll leave it at that. Well, Pete,
I never dated anyone who looked like her. I don't know what you're talking about. So,
but and so we'll see how the next episode goes. I can't think that it would be anything less than just extraordinary because we've gotten to the point in the series where it is now. Everything's pretty much going to be action. I
made a comment. We could call this segment "Stroking My Wookiee" with Josh and Josh.
Every Monday, stroking the Wookiee.
I don't know if that would be okay for me to put in print. So we'll verbally say that, and then
all right. So this is the parentheses question mark stroking my Wookiee episodes.
I'm gonna call it Double J Jedi.
Double J Jedi. All right.
How about that?
Jedi talk. Double J Jedi talk.
Double J Jedi talk.
Double J Jedi talk.
Where's my pen? I'm writing that down.
Writing this down. This is going in the bank.
In permanent ink.
Money, baby.
J or no, I like Double J. Double J Jedi talk. Yes. Boom! It's on the notebook.
All right, so we'll shoot for next Monday as soon as we get the next episode. And spoiler alert: everybody watch it before Monday.
Pew pew.
Well, I was gonna go, but then I had to represent for Coach Beamer today.
Big change coming. Oh,
I feel he's gonna be a good coach.
I know we're wrapping this up, but shout out to the Chanticleers for kicking BYU's butt at that last second effort. Holy crap! What a game!
What a tackle!
Big shout out to BYU for like just saying, yeah, we'll play you guys on a Thursday and the game's on Saturday. I mean, that was a huge, momentous effort to do, but what a great game to watch. That was so fun.
I'm pretty sure that the works were already being in the conversation because I think that's why game day came here to Conway.
Well, I mean, Liberty backed out at the last second.
Liberty was still going to be a ranked school, but they already had issues.
Yeah.
So I think ESPN got wind of the fact that they were trying to schedule either like a BYU or something like that.
Yeah.
And they went ahead and brought in College Game Day ahead of time. Even if it was Liberty, it's still 2 ranked teams.
The only undefeated program in South Carolina. Go Chanticleers.
Yep. Go Chanticleers. It was a huge win. I saw the best meme though. This isn't the first time that a bunch of Cougars came to Myrtle Beach and got more than they were looking for.
That's messed up.
I saw someone tweet that one, and I had to reshare that one on Facebook. I thought that was the best one I saw.
I love the kid that made the T-shirts, the mullets versus the Mormons.
Mullets versus the Mormons, yeah. And an ode to Catholics versus convicts.
That's so messed up. That's funny. But what a game! I mean, that was fun to watch. The triple option is hard to beat, and it is rare to have a quarterback that can run that properly. And they did a great job. So and that swarm defense, holy crap!
They just swarm. That's it. They swarm. I mean, they're because BYU's quarterback is an elite.
He's a legit quarterback. Yeah, he. I mean, he could be a Heisman hopeful if it wasn't for the fact that you got 4 other Heisman hopeful quarterbacks out there. But yeah, great game to watch.
they put pressure on him big time. I mean, to the point like I guarantee you, BYU did not expect that kind of pressure from a small school when they took this game.
Yeah. Of course, my wife made a comment. She says, "Do you think they overlooked him?" And I was like, "No. Neither one of these teams had any film to plan for. They both came into it blind. They're both like, all right, kids, let's do our game plan and we'll try to adjust on the fly." But they were going to play their style of game no matter what. And we got to see the ultimate end of it. And it was a 1-score difference. I mean, 1 yard difference.
It was 1 yard difference. I mean, this is compared to, they compared it to the St. Louis Rams touchdown with the
Tennessee,
the Titans.
Yep.
And then they also compared it to last year when the Niners Greenlaw stopped Seattle on the 1 yard line, even the 1 inch line, basically.
Yeah.
I mean, there was one guy. If that one guy doesn't pull him down, he scores and they lose.
Yeah.
It was an incredible effort by the whole team. They played great. Congratulations to the Chanticleers, best team in South Carolina right now.
Yeah. Impressive. Fun to watch. I mean, I turned over to see how the Clemson game was going. It was just boring. I turned over to watch Alabama, and it was boring too. But this was an exciting game, and I loved every minute of it.
I expected them. The line was 10.5, and I thought they'd lose by 17.
Yeah.
I mean, I really did. I thought BYU was going to eat them up on offense. Defensive, they would have a little bit of a struggle, but I mean, I thought that the Chanticleers would score, but I thought that BYU would really score, and that defense was just unbelievable. So, all right. Well, I know you said it's about time for you, and it's about time for me as well. So, I
had to write down more notes to tag.
J Squared Jedi Talk Monday.
J Squared. Double J.
Excuse me. Double J.
J Squared has a neat appeal to it.
We've always gone with J Squared. I thought. Well, it used to be J Cubed, but we know he's not listening.
Can't be 2 skinny J's.
Oh, well, not 2 skinny J's anymore.
Shout out to the 2 skinny J's out of Columbia. Yeah. So, all right. Well, cool deal. Right. Thank you for doing this. Appreciate it.
You got it, brother. And I look forward to the next one.
Everybody out there listening, please remember to rate, review, subscribe, share with your friends. I put a link on Facebook of the year in review. Lots of new listeners this year, a big growth of listeners in Great Britain and Ireland, 45% in Great Britain and 44% in Ireland. Really cool. Maybe that's where they're working to shoot this stuff. I don't know. Maybe the Star Wars people are like, hey, there's a podcast about us. Let me listen. I don't know. I've had 421 new listens this past week alone. So,
well, just know if you need us to come on set at the Mandalorian and do a podcast on set, we'll be happy to do it.
I'm not greedy. We'll Zoom you. I mean, you can stay right where you're at in your pajamas and we'll still do it. So,
but if you wanted to get us on set and do it set.
This is literally a sheet behind me, by the way. I'm not really in space. So
that you know what that looks like actually now that I think about it? You remember the episode in Rebels when they go through the wormhole? That's what that looks like, man.
Or in Han Solo where he's in the storm.
Well, yeah.
Huh?
But yeah, I can see like the centrifugal circle in the back, right directly behind you on your left shoulder.
Fibonacci, baby.
It looks like the one where they shoot through the other side of the galaxy and they come back and they find this planet.
It's math.
Yeah, I know it's math. I know.
Yeah.
I know what it is.
I know, but some people are out there like, he must be into psychedelics. Nope. Yeah, math.
Always learning, always trying to educate.
That's right.
Way to go. Keep the community moving.
You want to do the ending?
Oh, sure. Why not? One more time. Everybody, cue the cow.
Thanks, bud.
You got it, brother.
I want you guys to give me more likes. Give me